I mean, leading people, massive topic. Leading people or leadership doesn't necessarily mean that you're just, the line manager or the boss. We can really lead people from anywhere. Any activity where we need to get people to help us, support us, or do activities for us is leading people in that context. So a slightly different session today. No whiteboard today. I have some good material to go through, some insights, and a lot of challenge, so a lot of discussion for today. And start with a story. Story time. When I was living in England, we had a house that backed on to a river. So the back garden went down to a river. It's a very nice place. And to the left, we had a couple of houses, and then it was a forest. And one morning, wake up, making breakfast in the kitchen, and I look out the back window to the back garden, and there was a horse standing in my garden, eating my nice new roses that I just planted the weekend before, fully saddled. And as it happens, I have some good friends that have horses, so I know a little bit about horses, done a bit of horse riding in the past. And where the fences go down to the river, there's a bit of a gap between the end of the fence and the river. So I'm thinking, okay, somehow the horse must have got, down past the fences, ended up in my garden eating my roses. And I had this strange idea that, I know, I'll go out and see if I can find the horse's owner. So I go out with some mint sweets, because I know horses love to eat mint sweets. So I make friends with the horse, take the horse back round to the forest side. Can't see, anybody that's riding the horse or has lost the horse. So then I have another crazy idea. I think, I know, I'll take the horse for a ride. So I get on the horse. I'm not a brilliant rider, but I can just about manage a horse. And one thing I had learned about horses is they're very intelligent. They really are super intelligent. And every horse has a different character. And so I'm thinking, okay, I don't know where the horse stables are in the forest. I know there's quite a few horse stables in the forest, but I know the horse must know where the horse stables are. So I kind of motivate the horse along. We start down the paths in the forest, and occasionally we would come to like a fork in the path, and the horse would change direction and go down one path in the forest. Occasionally it would try and stop to eat some grass, and I would motivate it again, keep it going. And sure enough, 15 minutes later, we come to a horse stables, and a young lady comes running out of the stables, really angry with the horse, shouting at the horse, "Where have you been? Why did you run away?" kind of thing. Eventually, as I get off, she turns to me and said, "Well, where did you find the horse?" And so I found the horse in my back garden in town. It's like, how did the horse get there? And she turns to me and goes, "Well, how did you know where the horse stables were?" And I said, "Well, I didn't know where the horse stables were, but I knew that the horse would." And that was, eventually, we end up, she thanks me, and then I go back home. And I reflected on that the next week, because I had a big project that I was kicking off with a big team of people in the project. And it kind of reminded me a little bit about leading people or project management. When you have the technical expertise in your team, you've got the right people that know what they're supposed to be doing, then leading them or project managing them is really about motivating them, giving them a direction, and occasionally when they start to go away from that direction, just gently nudging them back in the right direction. And for me, that was an amazing learning around leading people or managing projects. If you do have the right people, all you really need to do is motivate them, give them a clear direction, and then occasionally keep them on track to reach the final destination. And that is actually at the heart of leadership. So that was my little story. It's a true story, by the way. It really happened. It was really weird day that happened on. Thoughts, reactions, comments, feedback?
Well, amazing story, first of all. And I think it will really stick in my mind how the horse actually knew where it was going, but it needed to be motivated. So I was thinking about while you were talking, like, who's leading who? Are you both leading each other? Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, I thought afterwards, what would have happened if I'd just, you know, taken the horse's reins and tried to pull it along? You know, if I had tried to really lead the horse, I mean, yeah. Horses are so stubborn. You know, anytime you try and do that, the front legs go in and that horse is not going to move, right? So often though, when we take a role of a leader, that's exactly what we try and do. We try and grab the reins and we try and pull people along with us. And of course, what happens in real life is you get a lot of resistance, and then people wonder, why is everybody resisting, you know, what we want to do? So it's good point. Other thoughts, feedback?
From my side, I think, you know, I've learned to motivate others by having myself like some role models that motivated me. So I think that people generally, and even like, let's say our management and so on, if they're not motivating us, is because maybe they themselves did not have role models, my opinion. So I don't know, there's a lot to say on that side from a psychological perspective, but also depends on what kind of background you come from, what kind of family you come from. I personally, to be honest, I come from a family where my mother was very critical and my father was very supportive. So I had like this balance. And I find that it's better to motivate than to criticize. It's better to motivate than to limit people. So, my opinion.
And there's an important thing kind of within what you've described there, is that leadership is learned. It's not something we're born with. And even as we go through our very junior school, right? You know, we come across certain experiences, a lot with the teachers that we look up to or our parents, and we learn aspects of leadership. And certainly when we go into business, like you say, if we come across good role models, we tend to emulate, we tend to, you know, learn from the good role models. But sometimes we also pick up bad habits from the bad role models as well, right? So yeah. But leadership is definitely learned. It's a skill and a capability that we learn through experience and through sessions like this, you know, when we start to understand some of the foundation blocks of good leadership.
Yeah, true. I agree.
Good. Let me share a few slides with you then. So let me just share my screen. And we'll cover a few topics today. So we'll take a look at a few things. So we're going to look at leading people. We're going to look at maturity levels, this idea of a monkey. We're going to look at directive spectrum, and then how can we start to motivate people, keep them going in the right direction. So when we first got together, I asked you the question, in a brainstorming session, then what makes great leadership? And you came up with a fantastic list of different capabilities and skills that great leaders have. And that was part of the input that I took into kind of trying to work out what are the kind of training sessions that really might be helpful for you then going forward. And if you look across all of the input that's on the screen now, it's almost like you're asking for Superman or Superwoman, because to be able to do all of these things is quite an incredible thing to be able to do. However, you know, to the previous point, you can learn these things over time and build experience in all of these activities over time. So it's a case of taking maybe one or two at a time, learning them, practicing them, getting experience with them, learning from others, learning from role models, and just building those skills over time. You may already have some fantastic skills around this. You may have some areas where you think, okay, I could do more in that particular area. All learned, absolutely all learned. So let's talk a little bit about maturity levels. So this is one model that's really well known. John Maxwell created it, and it is used as a kind of a standard starting point on leadership. Position, permission, production, people, and pinnacle of that. So question for you all to answer now. In the work that you're doing, be it programming, project management, consulting, where's your starting point on this kind of scale? Where you think you're operating? Question. Isabella first. Go for it. Where do you think you're at on his, in terms of the context of what you're doing?
I think I'm getting to production, but mainly position. I mean, I'm still very junior, and that's a real struggle for me. But I had some months working with the team, and now they started appreciating what I'm doing, and the fact that I work until late in the evening, and the fact that I filter some of the things to them. But unfortunately, I mean, having my age and in the context I was inserted at the beginning, I was in the position, and slowly it's going to production. Yeah.
No, good input and good thinking. We'll come back to that in a little bit. I like the way you were thinking through the development of your situation. And that, Mina, where would you say that, in the context of what you're doing, how does that fit with you?
Well, it's hard for me to define because, I don't know. I mean, I'm not like the only one, but like Emily recently joined, and I don't know in terms of the position that I'm working on, and it's just I don't see myself like in this pyramid, or I don't know. It's like I am some part of the of the team, but like I don't think I am influencing somebody or something, or delegating, or I don't know. I mean,
no, good input, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go through some of the other insights as well. Maya?
I'm not so sure. I find it difficult to really define where exactly, honestly.
And when you think about this, what would you say is the most difficult part?
Most difficult part.
In terms of thinking through, you know, where in the context of what you do, where you would see yourself kind of on this list of leadership topics.